Okay, so we are back, and now we're talking of chapter number 7, which is called prototyping and testing. So, prototype and empathize are the two central tenets of design thinking, if you will. And so, empathize is about understanding the need, and prototype is about validating how you address that need. So, one of the critical things is that you need to develop a prototyping mentality, which means that instead of really looking at the best solution intellectually, you should be able to try out more solutions physically. And that's where one of the key aspects of prototyping is to think with your hands. Most people don't think with their hands, they think with their mouth. Okay, if given a problem, they'll keep talking about the problem instead of rolling their sleeves and getting their hands dirty, because we think getting the hands dirty is a very menial job. It's not my job. But I guess if you are really the innovator type, you should not really shy away from getting your hands dirty. Because you see, in India, one of the challenges we have always had is that we have compartmentalized knowledge and skill. The guys who know it, they don't do it. They don't feel the need to do it. And that's the reason why, even if I'm an engineer, every time a machine misbehaves, I call a technician. You see, a mechanical engineer knows how the internal combustion engine works, whereas a mechanic whom you would resort to when your car is not working. Electrical engineer knows what are the three phases, but an electrician who will come and do the mending for you. So there's a mechanical engineer, there is a mechanic, there is electrical engineer, there is an electrician, there is a knowledge, there is a skill, there is a know why, there is a know how. And unless you marry the know why and know how, you can't innovate. So think with your hands. That's the key tenet of prototyping. So why prototyping? Because if you don't prototype, you are betting too much on the whims and fancies of the external customers. So the idea of prototyping is to pack as many experiments as you possibly can in given time and budget. And in business, no surprise is a good surprise. You often have this tendency in your mind that you will unveil your final creation to the world like Steve Jobs would do, but neither you are Steve Jobs nor he does it that way. If you really know the secret of Steve Jobs, he would practice hundreds of times in the auditorium in presence of his own folks before what you see on the stage really goes about. So no surprise is a good surprise. So the idea is to pack these surprises and to eliminate these surprises at your own personal cost and time. So just doing it might be a good tagline for Nike, but it is not really a good recipe when it comes to innovation. Just don't do it. You need to go through it. And why do you prototype? There are three reasons you prototype. The first is you prototype for yourself to seek more clarity, to think through the situation. All right, so this happens and this happens, this is where it might fail. The second thing is to get sponsorship. Now, suppose you have an idea and you go up to your boss with that idea. Most likely, your boss will shoot down the idea. It's not your boss's problem that he's shooting your idea. It's your problem that he's shooting your idea. Because you didn't go to him with anything beyond a PPT. And why should he trust your PPT? He sees so many of these PPTs on a daily basis. But if you walked up to that meeting with a proto of your idea, you'll find it you will be able to convince him, and he'll find it very difficult to actually dismiss you altogether. So the saying goes that if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a proto is worth 1,000 meetings. So you can big people up with your PPT, but nothing beats actual proto that works. And it can be a dirty proto. It doesn't have to be an elegant proto. And that's where one of the tenets is make something quick and dirty. In my workshops, I use clay, I use Lego, I use very simple contraptions which are available next to nothing. And this really gives people a massive clarity on how the end product would look like, and at least you make some progress in a direction. And if it is completely bogus, they tell you without really you burning so much of cash. And the master of prototyping has been Thomas Edison, the genius from Menlo Park. And his genius was that he tried out things, the very legendary of them being the electric bulb, where allegedly he had more than 10,000 failed attempts before he perfected the electric bulb. And when people around him asked that, haven't you failed 10,000 times? He said that no, it's not a waste, because I know 9,999 ways in which it doesn't work, which itself is a great piece of knowledge. And mind it, so many experiments just for electric bulb. And a man has more than 1,000 patents against his name, which means he was an amazing tinkerer. So design thinking is design tinkering. So unless you're willing to tinker, you're not thinking. Now, how do you prototype? You don't have to prototype the entire thing in one shot. Okay, suppose I have to prototype a mouse over here. Okay, this is a wireless mouse. Now I have to break this prototype into smaller pieces. I have to first of all prototype the mechanism by which it talks to the main monitor or to the main processor. Then I have to prototype the wheel. I have to prototype the clickers, the weight, the way in which the battery goes into this, and henceforth and so on. Each of them can be broken into independent protos. And when these protos can be tested independently, perhaps parallelly, and when this whole thing comes together, the mouse works. So the idea is to really reduce the cost of failure, because if you don't fail early, you fail late, and you fail quite publicly at it. Do the last experiment first. Now, a friend of mine, or an acquaintance rather, he walked up to me once saying that, hey Pavan, I want to do PhD from IIM Bangalore. So, and this was after I finished my PhD. So I asked him, why you want to PhD from IIM Bangalore? He said that I want to teach. So I asked him, have you ever taught? He said, no, I have not taught. So then I quizzed him that, how do you know that after the PhD you will be a better teacher? He said, I don't know. So I said, why don't you start teaching? You start teaching, and if you really think that PhD will make you a better teacher, then you do a PhD. And that's what is called as doing the last experiment first. If you have come up with an idea and you think the customer is going to pay a bomb for your idea, like $10 for the full idea, let's see if the customer is even willing to pay $1 for half the idea. And if the customer is not even willing to pay $1 for half the idea, then I think you are expecting too much from yourself and from the customer. And this is a great philosophy in life. What we don't do is that we eschew the most difficult part. We skirt the most difficult part. But the most difficult part of the problem has to be solved first. Don't park it towards the end, because that becomes your death knell. Which takes me to another aspect of prototyping is that, like we have discussed about how do you prototype a physical object, like a pen, like a mouse, or like a coaster and things like that. But then how do you prototype a service which is intangible? So we have a lot of methods of prototyping services. For example, one of them is scenarios. So you visualize various scenarios and try to see that under which scenario what kind of an idea works and how does it work out. And it's a great model of validating your ideas. Another one is called as storyboarding. Storyboarding we draw straight from the world of cartoon scripts, where you kind of break the entire customer journey into smaller frames and try to see how these frames talk to each other. Storytelling is another very powerful way of convincing your customers on how these ideas will work in reality. And when I use the word customers, I don't narrowly mean the guy who's paying money to you. What I mean by customers is also your stakeholders, because to really take an idea all the way to the market, you need blessings of lots of people. You need internal customers to be convinced, you need investors to be convinced, you need people who are influencers needs to be convinced. So I think that is where I always maintain that innovation is a political process. Unless and until you're politically savvy, you stand no chance. Your idea stands no chance. And I've seen so many of brilliant people having zero organizational skills, having zero political skills, and they are sitting in the corner genius rather, because they could not really influence people with their narrative. So storytelling is a great skill. Many organizations also do what we call as dog fooding. And I've given in this book the example of AWS. Amazon Web Services become a market rage years after it was adopted and embraced internally. Because the first set of customers who were really wanting that computational and storage space was not so much the consumers, because consumers still thought of Amazon as a book selling company, but it was the internal team. So they piloted that program extensively internally, and then it saw its global adoption. It's also a good idea to inventory failed prototypes. Failure can be highly instructive. For example, it was a failed adhesive that Arthur Fry and Spencer Silver created at 3M that we now call as Post-it. It was not something which was a part of their charter. So IDEO has this very fascinating mechanism called the tech box, where they inventory all the failed protos that haven't worked in the previous assignments, and every time a new project comes their way, the first go-to place is that tech box, and they try to see that whatever we have developed in past, can we bring quickly that to the bearing. So I think prototyping is a very powerful technique, but more importantly, you need to develop that as a mental model. Instead of trying to really bet big, if you can break the bet into smaller pieces and test them out independently, I think you can take much more informed, much more wise, low risk decisions in your life. So that was your chapter number 7 on prototyping and testing. And finally, once some of these things are tested, then you go and scale them up. So that's your chapter number 8. So I'll be talking to you about that shortly. Thank you.